find it a bit surreal that Mega Man has come back in such a large way in these last few years. I do remember, once upon a time, around the early and mid-2000s, we could expect 1 or 2 new games a year, and we had no idea how good we had it. But then, around the turn of the decade, there was suddenly a massive drought of Mega Man content. The last new series released during this massive influx of games was called Ryusei no Rockman, which translates to Shooting Star Rockman, or as we call it here in the States, MegaMan Starforce, and it was released for the Nintendo DS. MegaMan Starforce was a direct sequel to the Mega Man Battle Network series, taking place 200 years in the future and running off a variation of Battle Network's combat system while maintaining more or less the same type of overworld. And, like with EXE, Starforce also got a manga and an anime adaptation. However, unlike the games, the MegaMan Starforce anime from 2006 is not a direct sequel to the Battle Network anime, at least not in any way that matters. What I mean by this is that no important events from the Rockman EXE anime are ever referenced in the Starforce anime, though there are a small handful of references here and there. This series did get an English dub, but it was short-lived, only covering the first half of the first series. The second half and the sequel series, which covered MegaMan Starforce 2, were never dubbed. As for why the rest of the series never got dubbed, I've never really been able to get a straight answer. I was under the impression that it was because of the writer's strike that was happening at the time, but that might actually not be the case. The more likely reason is that it simply wasn't popular enough, or whoever was in charge of localizing it wasn't interested in spending the money to dub the rest of the series, and the writer's strike was probably just coincidental timing. Regardless, what we're left with is half of a series in a bit of a janky watching format. You'll see what I mean later. On top of that, the series only aired one time on TV in the States on Cartoon Network's Toonami, and it was a half-baked compilation movie. The series proper was released on Toonami's streaming service, Jetstream, and that didn't last very long. So it seemed that the anime was doomed to fail from the start, and as history will show us, this wasn't the last time Cartoon Network did Mega Man dirty. But enough about that. Now, in celebration of the Mega Man Starforce collection finally being released, let's take a look at the English dub of this anime. Our first episode opens with a space station, and the information that something called a brother band has been established. Kelvin Stellar, the head scientist on the space station, states that this is their first attempt to contact alien life. We then get a short montage with an exposition dump, explaining the world build, talking about how most technology is run by electromagnetic waves, and transers are the new wrist-mounted smartphones of the future. But this advancement comes with the drawbacks that EM wave viruses can attack pretty much anything they want, and the Satella police use vacuum cleaners to stop them, Luigi's Mansion style. I guess that's fitting enough, since EM waves are invisible to the naked eye. Except when they're not. You'll see later. Unfortunately, Kelvin's probe apparently was seen as an act of hostility by the aliens he was trying to contact, and he goes to look at the feedback with his visualizer, special glasses that let him see EM waves. I wish that my goggles let me see invisible objects. All mine do is give me laser vision. The opening sequence is pretty good, visually speaking, but I just wish we had a better theme song. I guess I'm just spoiled with Be Somewhere from Rockman EXE Stream. And then we get a repeat of what we just saw, but a bit more fleshed out? Okay, where are you, Killer Queen? I know you're around here somewhere. Anyways, as Kelvin looks at the pretty lights, a shadowy haunter jumps into the space station and blows it up. Looks like for this first contact, instead of Star Trek, we get Mars Attacks. We then meet our protagonist, Kelvin's son, Geostellar. He's lying in the grass, looking up at space.
The sky is so beautiful through the visualizer.
We're then treated to a flashback of when Geo first learned of the space station's destruction and his dad's fate.
The investigation crew found this inside what was left of the space station.
Dad's visualizer?
I'm really sorry, but there seems to be no hope for your father or the rest of the station crew.
Alright, I don't intend to point out every difference between the anime and the games, but I will point out the ones that have an impact on the story. In the game, Geo didn't know what the visualizer was until Aaron Boreal, the man in the flashback, gave it to him and explained what it was. Also, here, Geo looks roughly the same age. If he's supposed to be about 11 years old, then he should look a bit younger, since present day is 3 years after the space station was destroyed.
Wake up, Geo.
What is it, Mom? I'm not gonna go to school today.
It turns out Geo's mom, Hope Stellar, wasn't trying to make him go to school, but instead to help fix the food dispenser, which looks like a microwave. A nice callback to Battle Networks 1 and 4, since these games have Lan saving their oven from cyber attacks in the first chapter of both games. We see another EXE reference with the IPC label on the microwave. No, IPC. It's the name of Shad's father's company. In the English dub of NT Warrior, we would know it as Blaze Quest, but in the games and the Japanese version, it was the Ijuin Pet Company, with Ijuin being Shad's family name in Japan, which was localized as Eugene, hence why his name is Eugene Shad, instead of Ijuin Enzan. So despite no major plot elements carrying over in between the EXE and Starforce animes, we do still get tiny throwbacks like this.
A virus infected the recipe that was sent on the EM wave, and that's what's causing all the trouble.
I find that simultaneously terrifying and kind of hilarious. The recipe for the food dispenser has a virus in it. Imagine if this was Star Trek and someone put a virus in the replicator.
Tea Earl Grey hot.
On the topic of a food generator, I feel like I could make some comparison to the concept of 3D printed food, but this is the future, so this is cooler, and I just want to keep thinking that it's cooler.
Don't tell me we're going to have to call the satellite police again.
This takes place in 22XX. Net battling has advanced so far to the point to where humans don't even need navies to delete viruses anymore. They can just do it themselves with battle cards. I guess that is sort of more realistic, considering that for viruses you would just use antivirus software, but still, that's so boring. Geo swapped the oatmeal for pancakes. The sailors talk about Geo's education, and he says that he's been keeping up with his studies by watching the daily broadcasts from the school. It's a long-running joke that Battle Network predicted the future, with all of its supposed futuristic technology suddenly being actually real in today's modern world. But apparently Starforce predicted remote learning for elementary school kids. Hope asks if Geo would go to school if she told him to, and when he acts dismayed, she follows it up by saying that he can return to school when he's ready. I feel like this is a very good moment. The beginning conflict of the first game is that Geo is just so distraught by losing his dad that he just completely shuts down as a person and closes himself off from everybody else, and here we see that Hope is still giving him time to grieve. However, as we'll see later, the anime seems to significantly downplay Geo's depression, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The doorbell rings and Geo goes to check on it.
I'm Luna Platts, grade 5A at Echo Ridge Elementary.
And you're voiced by Melissa Fawn, the same actress who voiced Rika in Digimon Tamers. Before we learn more about Luna, we cut away to deep space and see a bunch of shadowy figures about to fight.
Did you think you could escape, Omega Sis?
Hand over the Andromeda Key.
This Omega Sis activates the Andromeda Key and uses it as cover to escape from his attackers.
The planet Earth is calling to me.
We then get a repeat of the scene we just watched with Geo and Luna, and we're at roughly the halfway point of the episode. In my opinion, this is the biggest flaw with the English dub of this anime. The Japanese version had episodes that were 10 minutes long, but here in the United States, our average time slot on TV is 30 minutes, so they need at least a 20-minute episode, if you want to include commercial breaks. So what we effectively get is two shorter episodes duct taped together, and sometimes the beginning of one episode is the very ending of the previous one, so then we get some repeated scenes during the same episode. And if you're watching it like I am, where it's not on TV and not broken up by commercial breaks, then it just comes across as very janky. Since it's the halfway point, that means we've started episode 2 going by the Japanese version. Episode 1 ends off with Omega Sis escaping from the shadowy figures, and episode 2 starts with a repeat of the scene where Geo meets Luna. If this were still on TV, then it wouldn't be that jarring, since a lot of cartoons do a brief repeat of what just happened when they come back from commercial break. But the problem is that this was never on TV in this format, and was on Toonami Jetstream instead, so it just comes across as really clunky. That also means that technically episode 1 of a MegaMan show is over without us actually seeing MegaMan outside of the opening and the ending. Anyway, Luna explains that she is class president and she is taking it upon herself to play truant officer.
I don't know if you realize this or not, but you've been absent from class since the new school year started.
This is where we get a major deviation from the games. Like I said earlier, Kelvin disappeared 3 years ago, and Geo went into complete and total shutdown as a person and doesn't really talk to anybody except his mom. And when he does talk to anyone else, it's begrudgingly. And he's supposed to have stayed like that for 3 full years, not less than 1 full school year. Luna shows us that she has no respect for personal boundaries, grabs Geo, and tries to drag him to school. Geo either isn't very strong or Luna has an iron grip. They make it a good distance away from Geo's house before meeting up with one of Luna's flunkies, Zack.
Ah, this must be the one who's been skipping school due to the horrible shock of losing his father to the mysterious explosion of a space station.
Sure, rub his trauma right in his face, why don't you? This is why you never got an EM wave change form.
Whether or not I go to school today or ever is none of your business!
I don't really care if you come to school or not, but if I can make you come, my overall value as class president will go way up, and that'll help me as I get ready to make my move up the ladder of success.
I know these guys are supposed to be Geo's friends later on, but this is a horrible first impression. As Geo rightfully turns to leave, he bumps into crony number 2, Bud. He's the brawn while Zack is the brains.
Now you're gonna be real quiet and come to school with us!
Yeah, way to go, bud. Perfect timing.
Yeah, worst first impression ever. I have no idea how they could reasonably bounce back from this and become friends later on. In the games, the Three Stooges here were annoying and frustrating, but they weren't this irritating at the start. And when Bud got all up in Gio's face, Gio accidentally knocked him out cold, with a little help. Gio tries to fight back, but Bud knocks him down and then sits on him. Kidnapping and now assault. Guess Gio shouldn't have said "fuck the police" earlier. Finally, a teacher shows up and distracts Bud, allowing Gio to escape. Now we move to Amikin, which is basically future Naxa.
I just came by to see Mr. Aaron Boreal. He's a friend of the family.
Now we get to talk about Aaron. In the games, Gio knows who Aaron is because he was one of Kelvin's friends, and he gives Gio the visualizer at the start of the game. But again, Gio is so depressed and grief-ridden that he's closed himself off to basically everyone and only interacts with others if he's strong-armed into doing so. He wouldn't willingly go visit Amikin until Aaron pressured him to do so, since Aaron was working on a transmitter to keep looking for Kelvin. Again, they are really downplaying Gio's depression and isolation. It doesn't seem like a big deal now, but it will later, at least in the context of the games. Gio is stopped by a paranoid-looking man named Tom Dubious, not to be confused with Tom Dubois, who thinks that Gio is here to steal his research, specifically his research, not all the research in the Space Center. Fortunately, Aaron recognizes Gio and tells Tom that Gio is okay to enter. Aaron takes Gio to see a new rocket ship that they're constructing, and Gio says that he wants to become an astronaut to go searching for Kelvin, believing that he's still out there in space somewhere. Aaron knows that Gio isn't going back to school, and he tells Gio that he should try going and making some friends. Gio, rightfully off-put by the Three Stooges from earlier, bluntly refuses.
I don't need friends. I'm fine.
Later, Gio is out stargazing again. As everyone's words from the day echo in his mind, he begins to see some new, strange wavelengths with his visualizer.
Found you again, Omega Sis.
Cygnus.
I'm sure you thought it so clever misdirecting us by exploding that planet, but it didn't work.
And now we see why the Andromeda Key is so dangerous. Hope that planet was uninhabited. Gio gets caught in a burst of energy, and we see a shadow of what this series' Mega Man will be. And that's the end of English Episode 1, Japanese Episode 2. The format for each episode going forward will be that the cold open before the theme song will show us a brief plot synopsis and a recap of the previous episode, and then the next 2 Japanese episodes will play as one longer episode. Sometimes during the cold open, we also get a teaser for what's to come during the current 2 episodes. We pick back up with Gio coming face to face with Omegasis. At first, he's apprehensive, but then Gio notices that Omegasis is injured. When he detects someone approaching, he jumps inside Gio's transer, that thing on his arm that he used to delete the viruses earlier. Looks like, canonically, Gio is linked to the Pegasus satellite. More on that later. Much, much later. It turns out that the ones looking for Omegasis are Bob Copper and the Satella Police. Copper looks quite silly, having a flashing light sticking out of his head. They never explain that either, it's just there. They find Gio unconscious and take him back to the station, where Hope picks him up and takes him home. Gio suddenly remembers what happened and he tries to explain to his mom, but she thinks that it was all just a dream.
It wasn't a dream.
Because he's made of EM waves, Gio can't see Omegasis without his visor. Gio agrees to keep Omega hidden while he recovers from his injuries. Now that Omega is inside Gio's transer, the visualizer can now see the entire EM wave world. He then casually drops the plot bomb that he knew Gio's father while he was on the space station. But before Gio can press him further, he uses his injury as a cop-out and disappears back into the transer. The next day, Omegasis gives the warning to Gio about the aliens from the planet FM, the Femians, and how they destroyed planet AM, the neighboring world. They followed Omegasis here because he has the Andromeda Key, but he keeps that tidbit hidden for now. Gio sees the Three Stooges at the train station and hides.
Are they Ephemians?
No, those guys are just classmates of mine.
What is a classmate? An enemy?
Not really, they're neither friend nor foe.
And that line was written by someone who's never been to public school before.
I don't particularly like them because they keep forcing me to go to school.
A valid reason to dislike someone, but so far they failed to make you actually go, unless that happened off screen. Gio hears an explosion, and it turns out that the train is being attacked by viruses. Luna is dangling out of the car, suspended high off the ground. Despite not liking Luna and her cronies, Gio heads to the scene, ready to fight the EM wave viruses. But his battle cards by themselves aren't enough to stop the onslaught. Omegasis lends Gio his power, activating an EM wave change and thus creating Mega Man. It is kind of silly looking with how Omega's head is Gio's left arm. The Satella Police finally show up with their vacuum cleaners, and Bob Copper detects Omega's EM signature. Just as Luna falls, Gio catches her. Luna is instantly love-struck by seeing Mega Man, despite EM wave beings supposedly being invisible to the naked eye. This is what I meant earlier when I said, except for when they're not. Zack and Bud's train car falls from the tracks, and Mega Man catches it before it crashes. As Bob Copper tries to question Gio, Luna shoves him aside and asks for his name.
Geo...
MegaMan.
Mega what?
MegaMan? Wow!
You're called MegaMan, huh? Well, you're under arrest.
Since his name is Omegasis, shouldn't it be Omega Man?
Did you just call me Omega Man?
Yeah, I always thought it was like opossum. You know how like it's spelled with an O, but everybody just says possum?
That's not even remotely correct.
Right.
Before Bob Copper can arrest him, Mega Man runs off to fight the virus boss.
Hey, don't you have a weapon?
Get the battle card out from your trancer.
Another battle card?
They use the Vulcan battle card to shoot up the Axe virus, and then use a heat bomb to take out all the smaller ones. Out of energy, Omegasis breaks the EM wave change, putting Geo back in his human form. Bob Copper sees Geo as he runs off, and is starting to get suspicious, since this is the second time that Geo has been near where he found Omega's wavelength. Alright, now that we have a basic formula for how the show will play out, for the rest of the episodes, I'll just give a brief synopsis and only go into depth about new characters or new plot elements. With a new skill set and identity, Mega Man begins his hero training, testing his speed and intangibility with different wave frequencies, while Bob Copper tails him the whole time. Tom, the paranoid guy from earlier, is still paranoid and is hiding something. An exposition dump from Aaron reveals to us that in a past job, his superior stole his research and took credit for it. After Omegasis says that the universe might be better off without humans, except for Geo because he's useful, Mega Man comes across some EM viruses and we finally see the first use of the Mega Buster. After dispatching the viruses, Geo heads to the outskirts of the city, and Omegasis says that humans with selfish desires are easy to manipulate and control, and that there are 9 evil Ephemians that will eventually track them down. He also keeps dropping breadcrumbs that he knows something more about Kelvin, but every time Geo tries to ask, he changes the subject. Luckily for Omega, Geo spots Tom standing on a cliff and he jumps off. It turns out he's testing a wing pack called the Sky Jacket. The bird brain Ephemian finally shows us his true form, having detected that Tom will be a compatible host. His name is Cygnus, like the constellation. Forget zodiac signs, tell me your Ephemian EM wave change. Tom isn't happy that Geo saw his flight test, still expecting that he's a spy. Geo tries to make friends by sharing a protein bar. When they part ways, Cygnus starts whispering in Tom's ear, makes him crash his car, and possesses his body. The Three Stooges try to make Geo go to school again, and Tom reveals his new EM wave change form, Cygnus Wing. He begins attacking Amakin Labs, and Geo heroes up. Omegasis drops the exposition that defeating an FM-fused human won't harm the human host, so that gives them the all-clear to use violence. Cygnus Wing launches his cronies at Mega Man to keep him busy, before heading to space and grabbing an abandoned satellite, and then tries to drop it on Amakin for revenge against those who would try to steal his research. Okay, it's clear that the creators of Mega Man are Gundam fans. Sigma tries to drop a space colony onto Earth during X5, we have Gundam textures showing up in Mega Man Legends 2, and this satellite drop looks a whole lot like Xeon's colony drop. And need I even mention X using Shining Finger during Day of Sigma? Geo pursues Cygnus, and despite years of paranoia and rage, Geo's kind gesture from earlier was enough to get Tom to doubt his whole plan, creating an opening, and Mega Man defeats Cygnus Wing with a cannon shot. Unfortunately, Cygnus wasn't willing to go down so easily, and he takes off with Tom's body as his host. Geo has to stop the satellite and can't pursue. Since it's too close to Earth's atmosphere and they can't stop the fall, Geo blasts the satellite, causing it to fall apart, leading to much smaller and less harmful fragments falling to Earth. Bob Copper ponders if Mega Man is friend or foe, and Geo promises to find out what happened to Tom. Later on, Omegasis is very bored and demands that Geo take him to school. His bored ramblings last all day, and Geo has to tie the transfer shut to muffle the noise. The next day, right on cue, the Three Stooges show up to harass Geo again, but he's going to school of his own free will to save his sanity. When we get to school, we see Geo's teacher, and I swear that her design is a reference to something, but I can't put my finger on it. The colors remind me of Iris from Battle Network, but I don't think that's it. Omegasis is even more bored than being stuck at home. Big surprise. He decides to run off. The Three Stooges keep following Geo and bring him extra homework that he missed. When Geo says that he already did all that work at homeschool, Bud gets grabby again. Luna takes Geo on a tour of the school, and Bud is clearly jealous. Geo actually seemed to enjoy the planetarium. Omegasis comes across another Ephemian, Taurus. Geo, Zack, and Luna come across the two fighting, and when Mega gains the upper hand, Taurus possesses Bud, creating Taurus Fire. Minor note, in the games, Taurus Fire was the first Ephemian boss, and Cygnus Wing was the second. Mega Man engages the new threat. Sometimes Zack and Luna can see the two EM beings as they fight, sometimes not. Taurus Fire then grabs Luna and takes her hostage, and pulls a King Kong by climbing to the roof of the school. With Luna as a shield, Mega Man can't attack, so Luna decides to order Bud directly to stand down. That seemed to get through to him. Once Geo rescues Luna, he finishes the job with a Gatling gun, causing Taurus to leave Bud's body and retreat. Bud is fine, but doesn't remember anything that happened. Later on, the kids come across a TV playing a song by Sonia Sky, known as Sonia Strum in the games. Geo knows that Omega Sis is unusually quiet, and the Three Stooges rush to a secret Sonya concert. But Sonya's manager says that she passed out from exhaustion and is at the hospital. The truth is that she just disappeared, and is connected to what's been bothering Omega Sis. He sensed the presence of another FMian called Lyra. Like the others, she's after the Andromeda Key. Rather than coming out swinging, Lyra decides to attempt negotiations first, but then the negotiations turn aggressive. Geo wakes up and finds that Mega is missing and gives chase. Bob Copper is working at his computer.
And now we have some breaking news. We just received word that pop star Sonya Sky has disappeared. The circumstances surrounding...
Shut up!
Even 200 years later, pop-up ads with audio are still a problem. Bob finds out that Mega is on the loose again and decides to check it out, and Lyra performs an EM wave change, becoming Lyra Note, or Harp Note. Yeah, her human host is Sonya. I don't feel bad spoiling it because it's kind of obvious and it's not really that big of a plot twist. Geo hides when the cops show up, Lyra runs, and Mega hides. Sonya calls her manager, telling him that she's off on a beach for vacation and won't be back for a while. Sonya's biggest problem is that despite being a talented singer, she doesn't like to sing the pop songs that the producers wrote and would rather write her own songs, but she's having trouble coming up with them. Then we get a blink and you'll miss it reference to Roll Casket's outfit from Mega Man Legends, and possibly a reference to the Hatsune Miku vegetable juice music video. Luna makes the boys carry her stuff while she's out shopping, and they see another broadcast of Sonya's concert, and then it's crashed by Harp Note, who sings like Jigglypuff and puts everyone to sleep, except Geo. I assume that Omega Sis gives him some sort of resistance to such attacks. Luna sees Geo transform, but she thinks she's dreaming. That's a recurring element in this anime. Luna knows that Geo is Mega Man, but she's just in such denial and she won't admit it to herself, and she just wants to keep treating them like they're two different people. Geo crashes Lyra's concert, and Sonya suddenly wakes up mid-fight. It turns out that Lyra was possessing her for this little outing. Once the police sirens go off, the two FMians scatter, with Bob showing up just too late, yet again. Back on her island, Sonya yells at Lyra for apparently not being some music goddess, and for trying to get her to destroy the Earth. Lyra says that she's giving up on the mission, and Sonya decides to use their EM wave change powers to travel, so that she can get inspired to write her music. The next episode starts with Mega Man putting down a McCleaver virus infestation, and we see one virus merges with a jealous human to become a large McCleaver. I don't remember that happening in the games, but instead it was jammers, who were low-level, normal, or heel-navvy type mini-bosses. The next day, Copper is stalking Geo, trying to find proof of him being Mega Man, and he camped outside of the school all day, and drank a ton of milk. Dude is gonna have stomach problems for days.
What are you doing? Pick up that trash this instant!
Even when Geo leaves school, Bob is not so subtly following Geo. Omega Sis makes Geo try to lose Bob by running all over the city through alleys, ditches, and sewer pipes. Dang, Copper's got mad driving skills. Then the McCleaver boss breaks into an art museum where Luna and the cronies are. Bob catches Geo and locks him in his cop car as he goes to handle the virus on his own. The car is apparently EM shielded and Geo can't wave change. Falling rubble injures Luna's ankle and the McCleaver knocks Bob through a wall. Bob doesn't have his vacuum cleaner, so he tries to throw hands, but it gets him nowhere. Zack lets Geo out of the car and it's hero time. Mega Man stops the virus in his tracks and one-shots him with a sword slash. Then, before Bob notices he's gone, Geo returns to the cop car to solidify his alibi. Next episode, Geo's at the park, complaining about his homework that he apparently already did in his at-home studies. He sees two new characters doing some science stuff. This is Pat Spriggs and Mr. Shepper. Mr. Shepper is a science teacher at the school, and Geo goes to check out his class, since science is one of the few things that actually interests him. In the classroom, we see some more IPC-branded gadgets. Once is a cameo, twice or more is pretty much confirmation that some version of EXE exists in this timeline. Speaking of cameos, we see one student wearing an outfit similar to Lan's. He's got the same vest over a long-sleeve white shirt, but no headband and the hair isn't the same. The students test out various sciencey stuff, and Geo's particularly interested in the bottle rocket. You know, because he wants to be an astronaut. Tiny animation error I spotted, but the Land lookalike, his transfer changes colors in between shots. It's blue for Pegasus in 2 of the shots he's in, but in the last one, it's now red. Time to meet our next villain of the week, Libra, voiced by Richard Epcar. Most of you might know him as Old Man Joseph Joestar, but to me, he'll always be my Otismon. Like the rest of the FMians, it's on site. Libra by himself is no match for Mega Man, so he needs a host. A new human and a new FMian introduced in the same episode. You can see where this is going. He jumps Mr. Shepper, taking over his body. Naturally, he hides from Geo until his wound is healed. However, unlike the previous FMEM possessions, Libra and Mr. Shepper aren't very compatible, so Libra simply takes over his body and lacks any of his skills or memories. Also, I swear they keep calling him Mr. Shepard, but there's no D at the end of his name. It's just supposed to be Shepard.
Mr. Shepard's
Mr. Shepard. Mr. Shepard.
When Geo catches Libra burning some trash with his fire abilities, he EM wave changes into Libra Scales. Geo floors Libra and Mr. Shepard is set free. But unknown to them, Pat was on the roof, watching the whole thing.
Next, it's gonna be my turn, Geostellar.
Viruses are attacking a wave road above a bridge, but when the Satella police show up to stop them, they suddenly break into fits of laughter and, oh crap, those viruses just smashed those cop cars with giant blocks! They really are dangerous! Geo is headed to Amikin Labs, but he finds his so-called friends keeled over and giggling as well, and the rest of the school starts laughing too. At the labs, an experiment goes wrong and fire starts spreading, but the workers are also overtaken with laughter, like someone sprayed Joker venom everywhere. But this is supposed to be Starforce 1. Joker wouldn't appear until Starforce 3. Hello?
Your joke is bad. You should feel bad.
Aww. Geo takes to the wave road, and we find out that the culprit is Gemini. His shenanigans then start major traffic problems as cars crash into each other because the drivers are too busy laughing. The fight starts, and Gemini Spark's Rocket Fist has some of the best homing abilities of any rocket I've ever seen. This turns into a sword fight, and Gemini is more than a match for MegaMan. Suddenly, plot twist, there are 2 Gemini Sparks. Anyone who knows about the Gemini constellation, based on Greek twins, should have seen this coming. Outmatched, Geo flees, and it's confirmed that Pat is Gemini's host. A flashback scene shows us that Pat was apparently in a bad accident, and he was saved by Gemini. The 2, or I guess 3 of them, are wave compatible and form perfect synergy. With MegaMan having gone home, Gemini Spark is out and about causing more trouble, causing people at baseball games and even news anchors to act up. Hello, DNN logo. That's Ribita's news station from MegaMan Battle Network. Gotta love all these little throwbacks. From his TV, Geo sees the trouble happening at the ball game too.
I better get my licks in before they break it up.
Typical slow news day. Geo takes off to go fight Gemini, but Omega Sis is hesitant, thinking that they can't beat 2 Gemini Sparks at once, so he and Geo start fighting. Oh look, James Bond is driving his tank through the city streets again.
An actor stole a tank from the set of a war movie!
I can see that! The explosive was just a fake one!
The tank shell is fake, but the soldier's actor has firework grenades. MegaMan to the rescue. Unfortunately, MegaMan fell right into Gemini's trap. Geo uses 2 swords at once. Just use Longsword now and unleash the almighty program advance. Unfortunately, Geo is still no match for the twin Sparks, so MegaMan gets some backup by unleashing some EM wave viruses that were contained in a police truck. Too bad Bob Copper caught him in the act, meaning that MegaMan is now a criminal. But our Mega Boy continues to get thrashed. The battle even ends up in the ocean.
Rockbuster!
Kinda funny how that one slipped past the localization team and scriptwriters, but it seems that Geo must have fallen asleep in science class because he forgot that water conducts electricity. A jaunty tune starts playing as Harp Note comes to the rescue. Now with the odds equal, Gemini decides to call off the fight. Next episode, we find a new FMEN, Cancer, also voiced by Richard Epcar. He's looking for a host to attach to, and finds a security guard and tries to merge with him, but he accidentally ends up fused with the kid he was reprimanding. Cancer isn't happy about this, and apparently just walks around being visible to everyone. Unknown to Cancer, though, this kid has a massive crush on Sonya, and that's messing with his mind control. He tries to sneak back into the concert hall, but the guard catches him, and good lord, he's got an arm! No wonder Cancer tried to take him as his host. Geo and friends are on their way to the concert, but Cancer Bubble cuts them off by trapping people in bubbles. You know the drill by now. Silly crap, this isn't Mega Man X. But can I get someone to mod that voice clip into Maverick Hunter, please? Cancer retaliates and swipes Geo's concert ticket. He tries to get him to the concert legitimately, but the guard tries to get him to take off the crab head. He floats too. They all float. Harp Note and Cancer Bubble fight, and Sonya stops the fight by having a duet with the cranky crustacean.
I won't forget this!
When the concert starts, Geo seems to finally be putting it together that Sonya is Harp Note. Gee, I wonder why. It's not like she's wearing a shirt with her FMEN partner on it or anything. Next episode, MegaMan is fighting some viruses causing havoc at a local shipping center. Later, Geo gets a massive shipping crate and it's full of packages for other people. He comes to the conclusion that the mistake was likely the result of the battle he had, so he takes it upon himself to play mailman and delivers all the packages to their rightful owners. A whole fat load of nothing happens for the rest of the episode, other than some funny imagery, like MegaMan delivering packages and a disembodied hand carrying flying boxes. The only thing of substance is that Luna reads her horoscope, and that leads to hijinks.
Love horoscope for Leos?
Leo the satellite, not Leo the star sign. She has a red transer.
The love of your life will visit unexpectedly.
Special delivery!
MegaMan, it's you!
After taking a ton of pictures, Luna goes to make some tea before signing for a package, but while she's busy, MegaMan runs for it to finish the deliveries. Luna wonders why he hasn't shown up and thinks that he got lost.
Lost in our mansion, which is 3 times bigger than Echo Ridge Stadium, and he needs to be rescued!
If we assume that the stadium was the one we saw earlier at the baseball game, this house must be enormous. But the main building doesn't look that big from the front. Guess it's bigger on the inside. Luna dispatches her army of butlers to go look for MegaMan. Eventually, Geo returns to the mansion and has Luna sign for her delivery. Luna then starts ordering a lot of packages, hoping that MegaMan will be the delivery boy, but that doesn't work, obviously. Part 2 of Episode 10 introduces Wolfwoods. No, not that one. He has MegaMan on the ropes, but when the clouds block the full moon, he seems to lose control. The Ephemian appears to not be in sync with his host, Damien, and it's an internal struggle. At school the next day, Geo is playing baseball with his class, and Bud hits the ball too hard, knocking it into someone's garden. Geo goes to retrieve it and meets Wolf's host, who has laser shears. The sight of the round white object triggers something inside of him, and Geo runs away. Damien is having tea with Samantha, the daughter of the man who owns the garden. She brought snacks, but it seems that anything round starts to give Damien flashbacks to seeing the full moon, and his EM wave change form tries to break out. If I had a nickel for every time that a MegaMan cartoon had someone turning into a werewolf because of electromagnetic waves, I would have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it is weird that it happened twice. Damien's laser shears stop working, and he goes to buy some parts, with Samantha accompanying him. Geo goes to the mall as well to enter a ball throwing contest to win a telescope.
Well, if it isn't the puny wimp. Back in the line, buddy.
Yeah, beat it.
I've said it before, but the Echo Ridge trio are horrible in the anime. I still don't see how Geo is friends with them. All throughout the mall, Damien is surrounded by round objects that keep making him think of the moon, and he's doing all he can to not go full furry.
Oh, come on! That's not even round!
Pardon me, mister. Would you mind getting that ball for me?
Noticing that Damien is stressed out, and as a thank you for running the errand, Samantha gives Damien a silver arm cuff. Maybe that'll keep Wolfwoods at bay. The Knot couple then heads into a hall of mirrors, and they're being stalked by Gemini Spark. Gemini infiltrates Damien's mind, and they help Wolf escape, causing him to beast out in full view of Samantha. It looks like Silver doesn't stop alien werewolves. Omegasis notes that for some reason he's a lot stronger than last time. Harpnote shows up to help, and Gemini does likewise for Wolf. They create an energy ball to mimic the moon, which I think might be a DBZ reference, and Wolf goes Sonic OC by having a color change and slight design differences. With MegaMan and Sonya catching a beatdown, Samantha steps in, making Damien come back to his senses, and he overpowers Wolf, expelling him.
You haven't seen the last of me!
Spoiler alert, yes we have. For now. Now that Wolf is gone, Damien is completely back to normal. Hopefully he and Samantha can live happily ever after. Our second half of this episode shows us a rundown theme park that was once lively.
So it's Retroland that's supposed to have all the hidden treasures?
Better watch out for the Phantom, and make sure to check out the Bat Out of Heck ride. The 3 Stooges, Pat, and Geo are treasure hunting, following some rumors that they heard. Gotta give the artists props here. The designs of the rundown theme park are pretty creepy. They find some more treasure hunters running away and screaming as a flaming skull floats toward them and all the lights come on. Looks like this place is haunted after all. It's an Ephemian, of course. This guy is Crown Thunder, and he's a spooky, scary skeleton. Whoa, he's got a sword. He never used that in the games. Omegasis can sense that something is off about Crown Thunder and orders a retreat. Mega tells Geo that Crown Thunder has no pulse or body temperature, so it appears that he's actually dead. A real ghost and an EM being. Crown then shows his power by making the park rise above the ground, and it turns out that it's actually an ancient ship. Being a ghost, Crown Thunder is all but immune to MegaMan's attacks. Really glad it doesn't work that way in the games.
I performed an electromagnetic wave transformation with a human named John Coran Wellman George of on the 14th, and now I've become an unstoppable immortal.
Immortal?
That long name sounds familiar. I think I heard it on television. It was on that show Discovering Idiots in World History about famous fools throughout time.
These days we call that social media. It turns out, Coran was a king who died when his ship crashed 500 years ago off the coast of Japan. So yes, he is a ghost. One notable change is that in the games, Coran's overworld sprite has 2 arrows sticking out of its back, implying that he was assassinated rather than being lost at sea. I guess that was a little too dark for a kid's anime. Coran is bound to his ship, so that's why he was stuck at the amusement park the whole time, since it was built on top of his boat. Meanwhile, Gemini Spark causes the boat to do a sharp turn and then destroys the steering mechanism, meaning that it's now on a crash course for the Echo Ridge EM energy plant. Harpnote pops in again to help, and MegaMan figures out that if he's a bound ghost, then they have to destroy what he's bound to, the ship and all of the ground that's attached to it. A final strike causes Crown to eject from his host, and the ship stops right next to the power plant. Episode 12, Part 2, Luna is watching MegaMan do some virus busting, and when she sees Harpnote helping him, she gets very jealous. Sorry, Luna, you've got no chance. Anyone who's played Operate Shooting Star knows that Geo and Sonya are the canon ship. Luna apparently has a framed black and white photo of MegaMan from a newspaper. Then what was the point of all those photos taken the other day? The next day, Luna is quite ill-tempered, being even bossier than usual. In order to get her to knock it off, Zack suggests that they take her to a Sonya Strum concert. Sonya is having a rough time with her manager as he insists that she wears a super short skirt. When she refuses, he has the swimsuit picked out for her performance instead.
That's the skimpy outfit I said I never want to see again!
Well, darling, what'll it be?
This is the Western English dub, right? Normally that kind of stuff would be censored. Also, this guy's a scumbag. We then get introduced to this villain of the week, Ophiuchus. She scolds Lyra for not having gotten the Andromeda key from Omegasys yet, and sets out to find a suitable host. Just take a wild guess as to who it's going to be. And so we begin the final compiled episode. We see that Sonya is just wearing her normal outfit, and use the skimpy dress and swimsuit to tie up and gag her creepy manager. Ophiuchus possesses Luna, and now her ridiculous hair makes sense. Queen Ophiuchus takes the stage, causing havoc to draw MegaMan out. But when she sees him, Luna's mind starts lashing out, being a tug of war between fangirling over MegaMan and attacking him. But when Harp Note shows up, Luna gets even more jealous, targeting her instead. But the 2v1 is too much, and Ophiuchus is forced to eject. Sonya runs off, they get Luna back to safety, and Geo brings her back to Bud and Zack, only to get slapped as a thanks. The second half of the final episode is just a recap of the series up to this point, just reusing a bunch of recycled clips from the previous episodes. So the series kind of ends off on a flat note with a lot of unanswered questions. What happened to Tom? What is the Andromeda Key? What does Omegasys know about Geo's dad? Why is Pat secretly evil? What were those forms that MegaMan had in the intro that never showed up in this season of the anime? While all of these are answered in the game and in the second half of this series, this is where the English dub ends. From here, it's Japanese only, meaning that it never aired on TV or Toonami's failed streaming service here in the States. So anyone who watched only this will be left with an incomplete experience. But what do I think about what we did get? Well, marathoning this series, it felt a bit clunky with how many episodes start with a recap of previous events, and then towards the end of the series having two tonally different episodes taped together as one episode, often leaving us with part one of a two-parter and then part two being resolved in the first half of the next episode. Maybe a compilation movie or two would have been a better way to go about it if it told the whole story. The one that aired on Toonami cuts off when MegaMan is fighting Gemini Spark with dual swords. As for why each episode is only 10 minutes, I'm not sure, but the EXE anime did the same thing with its final season, Beast Plus, and the next series, Ryusei no Rockman Tribe, would continue this trend. I must also reiterate that they severely downplayed Geo's depression, and they made him bounce back far too easily. The entire point of the first game is to show that bonds are power, and that even if bonds must end someday, it's still better to make them and let them be your strength than to never have made them at all. And that's part of what makes MegaMan Starforce 2 so compelling when Rogue is introduced. But on the whole, I think that the Starforce anime is perfectly serviceable and enjoyable as supplementary media to be watched along with the games, but not as a substitute for them. We will come back with the second half of this series and finish it out, but in the meantime, we have a whole new collection of games to play. Until then, we'll see you on the Wave Road.